right, again, for those who just came in, I'm Shirley Crawford, the Associate Director of Recruitment at Vermont Law and Grad School. I'm going to introduce our panelists today, and if the panelists wouldn't mind just raising their hand and acknowledging which person you are on the panel. We have Christophe Korchesny, our Interim Director at the Environmental Law Center, and Anne Linehan, also a Director at the Environmental Law Center. Ellen Dubé, Admissions Outreach and Events Coordinator. Dan Budak, Director of Admissions. And we have 4 student panelists here today. Emily Dwight, she's a joint JD and Master's in Energy Regulation and Law student. We also have Daria Benarzik, who is a joint JD and Master's of Environmental Law and Policy student with an animal law concentration, who's doing an awesome externship. We also have Rena Garcia on the panel. She is a joint JD and Master's of Public Policy student doing an animal law track. And we have Fallon Ryan, who's a joint Master's JD and Master's in Food and Agricultural Law and Policy student. So our format today, we're going to have Christophe and Anne give you some information about our environmental program options and even some of the jobs that our environmental students go on to do. And then for the last 20 minutes or so, we will open it up for questions from the audience. You're welcome to ask any panelists any questions at that time. Christophe, if you want to take it from here.
Thank you so much, Shirley. Hi, everyone. My name is Christophe Korchesny, and I'm the Interim Director of the Environmental Law Center here at VLGS. I am also the Director of the Environmental Advocacy Clinic, and we'll talk a little bit about that as well, the sort of clinical offerings we have. But I started, I think I'll just give you a little background about myself and why I'm here. I think it's highly relevant to all of you. I have practiced environmental law for more than 2 decades now. I started off after graduating from law school in a judicial clerkship. I went on to the private sector where I worked at a law firm doing environmental, energy, and land use law for 6 years. After that, I went to become a nonprofit public interest environmental advocate at the Conservation Law Foundation in New Hampshire. And following that, I had a leadership role at the Massachusetts Attorney General's office working on environmental law, as well as ultimately overseeing about 50 attorneys who work in the very space that you're interested in. And at the conclusion of my time at the AG's office, I decided, based on the fact that I really loved working with students when they came through, my office as we worked on projects together. Law students are a common feature in lots of workplaces, but we don't oftentimes, as practicing lawyers, get to spend as much time and in-depth time with students as I knew were possible if I was in a teaching role. So that's why I thought about teaching. But the real question is, where would I want to teach? And there was really no other place that I wanted to teach more than Vermont Law and Graduate School. Its environmental reputation is absolutely incredible. And I worked with many Vermont Law and Graduate School alums in my, even in the small confines of that lawyer practice at the AG's office. I had master's folks who had graduated with masters, as well as numerous attorneys who had started their careers by graduating from Vermont Law. And so what do we offer in this space? In my role as the interim director of the Environmental Law Center, I work with Anne and other members of the Environmental Law Center team to ensure that we have an absolutely stellar package of courses and opportunities for students to take advantage of while they're here. And I really, without exaggeration, say that it is really the most comprehensive set of offerings in the country. You really can immerse yourself in all manner of environmental law topics here in Vermont Law and Graduate School. So just to take a few topics where we really have some significant strengths, we have an outstanding energy program through the Institute for Energy and the Environment. Um, that's the energy transition. That's the clean energy transition that you've heard all about. That's the front lines in the Institute, where there's all sorts of courses that are offered through that program, as well as opportunities to do cutting edge research. The Another major program is in food systems. Our Center for Agriculture and Food Systems is one of the leading centers across the country doing work on sustainable food systems. And they have an amazing team, lots of course offerings to take advantage of, wonderful faculty. We have maybe one of the country's a very unique offering in terms of animal protection law, and I know there's some of the panelists are participating in that. And we have absolutely outstanding faculty and just incredible opportunities there. We also have a robust orientation towards international environmental law, and our U.S. Partnerships for the U.S. Asia Partnerships for Environmental Law has a robust program that works with Chinese partners on cutting edge issues around environmental law in Asia. And it's a really exciting, obviously very important area. So I think that you get a flavor for some of the issues. We also have we have 6 environmental clinics at the school, which is one of the best offerings in the country in terms of experiential opportunities residentially. And from an online hybrid perspective, or from a residential perspective, we have 76 different kinds of 76 faculty members teaching more than 60 courses. And that is just unparalleled. When I went to law school, I had maybe 1 or 2 options during my time, and that is still the case at many law schools across the country. There's a couple courses being offered. There may be exciting things happening on campus in the environmental, climate, energy, environmental justice space, but very frequently you don't have that opportunity to really immerse yourself in these areas over the course of your JD program. So that's a quick overview of the environmental law program here. But I will say that our graduates go on to incredible opportunities in this space across all the areas that I described, in government, nonprofit environmental advocacy, as well as industry and law firms. And as I said, I saw Vermont law students everywhere, alums everywhere, and they really are just absolutely treasured by employers across the country in these specialized areas, because environmental law is a huge topic and a huge area. But in these niches, as well as in environmental law generally, Vermont law alums are having incredible success moving into employment opportunities very early in their career, and I think that's very exciting. So what I'm going to do is turn it over to my colleague Ann Linehan, and she'll talk a little bit more about what she does in the Environmental Law Center, as well as what your opportunity is to get a joint degree in 3 years while you're at Vermont Law and Graduate School doing environmental law.
All right. Thank you, Professor Crochane. I'm Ann Linehan. I'm the staff director of the Environmental Law Center, and I'm also the director of graduate programs here at VLGS. I've worked here for a long time now. I'm on my 27th year, which is crazy. And a lot of what I do is I'm an academic advisor for students across our various environmental degree programs, including some of the student panelists that you're going to meet today. And so that means I work closely with students as they're mapping out their plans, making sure they're going to meet their degree requirements, helping them take advantage of all the great classes and opportunities that they have in the short time that they are are part of our community. So really, there are so many classes and clinics and externships and all kinds of different opportunities, and it's important to come up with a good plan to take advantage of that as much as possible. So that's a lot of what I do, is helping students figure that out. I work closely with our students who are pursuing a joint degree, and we have a number of different environmental joint degree opportunities. And these opportunities allow students to get both a JD and a master's degree in the same 3 years it would take them to just get a JD degree alone. We have a Master of Climate and Environmental Policy degree. We have a Master of Energy Regulation and Law. And we have a new Master of Public Policy, MPP degree, and that one has a number of different tracks that students can focus on within that master's degree. So you can focus on food and agriculture, animal protection, energy. There's also a criminal justice reform track there, and sort of a general choose your own adventure public policy track. So JD students, whether they're residential or online, can pursue any one of those master's degrees alongside their JD degree and be able to finish both in the same time period. So that's it's an attractive way to really add a specialized degree along with your JD degree. It's gonna, having that additional degree name is gonna really show an employer that you have that specialty. It's also going to give you, some obviously subject-specific specialized skills. If you're pursuing that energy master's, you're really going to be focusing your coursework on energy. With the Master of Climate and Environmental Policy, you're going to be taking specialized courses on climate change, looking some at the science and the history of climate change, environmental justice, structural inequality. And then also, with each of these degrees, you're going to be getting some specific public policy skills that are really going to complement what you're learning over on the JD side, where you're getting the legal and advocacy skills. The master's degrees are going to bring in courses like policy design and quantitative analysis that are really designed to complement what you're getting on the JD side. And so it's going to put together a really powerful package of different kinds of skills to show an employer. These master's degrees sort of open up some additional time to take environmental electives. As Professor Corshane mentioned, we have lots and lots of environmental electives and only so much time to be able to fit them all in. So tacking on a master's degree is a nice way to be able to add on more environmental electives as well. I'm not going to get into too much detail about how these joint degrees work, but just generally, whether you're residential or online, your first couple semesters, you're just doing the JD. You're focused on those core foundational JD classes. And then when you get into your later semesters, that's when you start adding in the master's classes. It's structured differently depending if you're online or residential, but the idea of sort of pursuing both degrees at the same time is the same across both degrees. I would be happy to answer questions about how those joint degrees work, or anything along the academic advising side of things. I know we have a couple of joint degree students amongst our panelists, so I think it'll be nice to hear from them what their experience has been in the joint degree program. So I think next we're going to start turning it over to some of our student panelists.
Yeah, and I'm going to ask each student panelist to talk a little bit about the areas of law and what programs that they're focused on at VLGS, what clinics, experiential or externship type programs have they been involved in, why they came in the first place to VLGS, and what their next steps are, what they're looking at for their career goals. So with moderators' prerogative, I'm going to recognize first Rena Garcia, who was my student and is still my student in the Environmental Advocacy Clinic. Rena.
Thank you so much, Christoph. It's great to see everyone and welcome. So I'm a 2L in the dual JD and Master of Animal Protection Policy program. My background actually is in veterinary medicine as a specialized nurse, and I specifically was only going to apply to law schools for animal law. So Vermont Law and Graduate School was immediately on the map because VLGS is one of the only law schools basically in the world that has an animal law program and also has clinics associated with that. So there's the Animal Law and Policy Institute, but of course, everything under the environmental law branch in VLGS. So I specifically applied here because of the amazing staff and the amazing program. It's such a rare thing to have, and so it's highly coveted. If you're interested in animal law at all, especially the intersection, of course, between environmental law and animal law, which is where I like to live, then VLGS is really one of the only schools that falls on the map. So I have had the absolute pleasure of participating in the environmental advocacy clinic. And, environmental law, as everyone's kind of already mentioned, is so broad and encompassing, but specifically, I'm so passionate about where animals are um, essentially affected. And I have had an absolutely wonderful experience at the EAC, the Environmental Advocacy Clinic, where I've been able to get practical skills, work on projects that are important to me with clients, and it's been a truly wonderful experience that I just am continuing to have as I'm doing a research project currently still on things that I'm super interested in. So that's been very exciting. In terms of, as was already mentioned, you do your core classes first, but just to give you an idea, like I've done a class like animals and the law, animal welfare law, biodiversity protection law, land conservation law, ocean and coastal law, which one of the professors is like Michael Jasny, who literally runs the marine mammal program at the NRDC, Native Americans in the law. So like lots of different classes that have really just given me a very unique experience and like I think a wonderful skill set. Like for land conservation law, for example, I literally wrote a conservation easement. So like some of these classes you leave with a marketable, practical, really truly incredible and special skill. Um, yeah, and in terms of what area of law am I hoping to go into, and of course my career goal is basically animal law. I mean, that's really why I'm here. That's literally what I'm doing right now. And it's really cool because even, with those specialized classes and then working in the clinic, like I actually was working, like I had clients where I was doing environmental and animal law. So I think it's just a really unique experience. So that's what I have had so far at VLGS, and I will sign out and pass it to the next person.
Thank you, Rena. I'll recognize Emily.
Hi, everyone. My name is Emily, and I am doing the JD and the Master's in Energy Regulation and Law. And when I first started thinking about going to law school 5, 10 years ago, I really thought I was going to do arts law. So the fact that I'm doing energy is just straight out of left field. But I took some time between undergrad and coming back to grad school, and I ended up working for a law firm in a support role, really supporting an energy practice group and a real property group. So that was their environmental and land use practice. And during that time is when I really kind of figured out that I don't want to do arts law, which is great, but it's nice to have something different. And I really pivoted. So my list of schools that I was looking at changed drastically. And when I was talking to practitioners, they all said, as much as you can go find a school that you feel comfortable being at and you feel supported, that's number one. But then number two is try to find a place that has the course load that will give you a specialized knowledge base. That way you can make yourself marketable. That way you want people to hire you. You want people to fight over you. And so when I was looking at the other schools that offer energy coursework, most of the schools, like herself said, maybe offered 1 or 2 classes, or they had one faculty member that really kind of was the go-to person. And then there is Vermont Law and Graduate School, where we have the IEE, which is the Institute for Energy and Environment, and 5, 6, 7 faculty members who work on energy issues. And at this point, I've already overtaken 10 classes in specific energy law and energy policy, which really, I think, made the difference for me in choosing why to come to Vermont Law and Graduate School. If I'm going to be honest, the idea of being in South Burlington, Vermont was a little questionable since I was moving from DC. But the people here made it all worthwhile, and I'm so happy that this is where I've landed. Since being in school, I've, like I said, already taken 10 energy courses that gave me a knowledge base to be highly competitive in big law recruiting over the summer. And so I will be at a large law firm next summer, working specifically in energy law, which was kind of my big career goal. And I don't think that that would have been possible. And I don't think I would have been as competitive of a candidate without having the master's degree classwork and the experience of working in the energy clinic over the summer to be able to talk about the work that I was doing with these practitioners and say, no, I know exactly what you're talking about when you're asking me about an interconnection queue and what FERC Order 1920 is, and all these really technical pieces of energy law. Specifically, I think if you want to go into the energy space, energy is booming and it's only going to continue to grow. But you really need to have that foundational knowledge of like how energy works and how the energy systems work. And a lot of other people, if they want to move into this space, typically will do their traditional JD and then they find themselves stumbling into working in energy, whether it's energy regulation or project development. But usually it takes them 2 or 3 years after they've started their post JD career to really get to be in a place that they are comfortable in knowing what all of these like energy facets are. And I feel like when I leave VLGS, I will already have kind of that 2 or 3 year jump on a lot of people. And that's something that employers have really noted has been a highlight for me as a candidate. And that's something that really made the decision for me to choose VLGS over any other competitor. Did I hit all the questions? Was that right?
I think so. Thank you, Emily.
Perfect.
Daria.
Hi, everyone. Welcome. My name is Daria Bednarczyk. I am currently a 3L student, and I am focusing on animal law. However, I completed a joint degree. I mean, not the full degree yet, but I did complete the master's portion, and I did that in environmental law. And it's just so amazing that at VLGS, you have so many opportunities to craft your degree however you really want it to be. There's so many options. There's not one direct path. And I think that's what made Vermont Law School so attractive to me is the small community, the support system that you get from faculty and staff, and the ability to really hone in on what interests you. And so no degree is really, no 2 degrees are the same. So right now, where I'm focused on animal law, what it took to get here is me finding out that as a master of environmental law, that we had an animals in the law class. And so once I took that class, I was completely enamored because I didn't even know that animal law was a possibility. And so after completing my master's, I was like, I have to stay here and take as many animal law classes as possible. And I think that was the best decision I've ever made. In taking those classes, you have some of the best professors in the field. I will tout and, praise Professor Winders and Professor Ireland, Professor Vesland. They're all such amazing instructors and really care about you as a student, but also as a person, and they want to help you grow in every facet that they can. So to date, as a 3L, I'm in my last semester. I've taken as many animal law classes as I could. I was able to participate in the Farmed Animal Advocacy Clinic. I was an intern at the Virginia Attorney General's office, and that is the only Attorney General's office in the nation that has an animal law unit. I have interned for the Humane Society's Legislative Fund, for an organization called Animal Partisan, and I'm currently externing for an organization called Animal Outlook, which focuses on farmed animal welfare issues. And it's just been so exciting to take everything that I've learned at school and apply it to real life work. Like Rena was saying, I've been placed either in the clinic or either in externships where we have client work. So it feels like you're actually contributing to the field of law that you want to pursue. And really make sure that you know what you're doing, but VLGS really preps you for the real world application of law. Something I would like to also mention, I don't think that has been touched on yet, is how many activities we have at the law school. I know that myself and Rena, for instance, are a part of the Animal Law Society on campus. And last year, I was on the board of the Animal Law Society. This year, Rena is one of the co-chairs of the Animal Law Society. So even outside of class, you get to find your little group, your little niche, and talk about what interests you and try to make a change. This year we rescued a turkey and sent it to sanctuary over, the holiday season. So it's really amazing how you form this close bond and this tight-knit community within VLGS. Even within South Royalton, it may be small, but the community is so involved with us that it's not like we're in our own separate bubble. We are a community, South Royalton and the law school. So it's such a beautiful feeling. You're not just a number, you're another face in town. And it's great to walk by people and smile and recognize people. It's really wonderful and a warm feeling. So let's see, what other question? I kind of touched on why I came to VLGS. We have such a well-known reputation for environmental law and now for animal law. And for those of you who might be interested in pursuing animal law, really take advantage of that. I have spoken to a lot of law students at other law schools where their schools don't offer animal law. And so for them, wanting to pursue animal law is so challenging, and they are not getting half the experience that I am. And so when you're here, you are truly getting such a unique experience. Finally, for career goals, all of the opportunities that Vermont Law and Graduate School has set me up for and helped me attain has really made deciding what I want to do a difficult decision, because every experience I have has been incredible, where I don't know if I want to do litigation because I've experienced that and it's amazing. It's awesome. It's empowering. But then I see the other side of the field, and that's just as exciting. So I think right now, if I could, I would stick to litigation because I really love doing research and writing and applying that to real world cases. But no matter where you fall, it's all important and you will find your way when you're here. So you may not know exactly where you want to be or what you want to do when you come in, but by the time you're here and by the time you leave, I promise you, you will. And you will not regret coming to Vermont Law and Graduate School. That's my piece. Thank you.
Fallon.
Incredible. Well, welcome everybody. Congratulations on your law school application journey and kudos to you. I know it's so intimidating and takes a lot of work, but very exciting and can be really rewarding and gratifying. Law school itself has been really empowering, I think, as you work through just learning the specifics of this system that we all exist within and touches our lives on a daily basis. I think VLS has been such a great place to gain a legal education, and specifically just the students that are here. There's so much passion and purpose, which I think has been really exemplified with just even our panel of students today. So I feel so honored to sit with these three other students, and we're all in different areas of law, but it all still has so much meaning and so much opportunity, and there's so much ability within these specific niches of the law, but still is so much intersectionality between them. And so I guess I didn't even do my introduction. So my name is Fallon. I am coming in today as the food and agriculture student. I'm doing the joint degree, and I'll be graduating this May. I'm a 3L, and doing the dual degree with the master's in food and agriculture law and policy. And I will echo a lot of what's already been said, is there is so much opportunity at this school to specifically develop a legal pathway within food and agriculture, which is such a big umbrella, as this whole environmental umbrella that we kind of all exist under is. But I think that's really the main point of what I was so excited about VLGS for is the fact that we have this really beautiful reputation as an environmental law school. And that takes a lot. Like there are so many law schools and you can choose any of them, but it takes a lot to really develop like a personality for yourself and to have this much to be known for something, and specifically within environmental law, and then these very specific areas within environmental law. And so I chose this school specifically for food and agriculture. I was working in the food system in Minnesota, and decided I really wanted to go to law school and stay within the world of food and ag. And VLS is one of the only two schools in the country that really offers a specialized program within that world. And so I came to VLS a few years ago for that reason. But I actually ended up finding like just like so many other things I was interested in, which is the joy of law school generally, and like the joy of going to VLGS is there's so much intersectionality within all of these different areas and so much opportunity to test out different areas of expertise that you don't necessarily get in other places. I think the one of the big draws of this school is that we have a lot of different clinic opportunities and a lot of specialized departments that all are very supportive and welcoming and offer a lot of classes as well. So you get to kind of choose your own adventure along the way of how to design your own experience. And that's quite a privilege to just be able to I think this is, been said before, but the choose your own adventure framework. And law school itself can be so overwhelming and so a lot to take on generally, but when you can make it fun and make it interesting and make it applicable to the real world, I think that can be really intriguing. And I'm realizing I probably should have written these questions down so I didn't ramble so much, but I've been really excited since I've been at this school that I found an interest in the finance nexus of law and how that relates to food and agriculture. I came here specifically thinking about land use and thinking about land access and land transfer. And I found this like very intriguing through, and actually I added another concentration to my degree recently in business and thinking about where the money moves and how this affects farmland and thinking about how do we create viable communities through sustainable food production. And so the joy of coming here is like you can take all of these specialized classes and then still find something that feels fully you and fully builds a pathway that you can find career paths and find opportunities that are fitting. So far, while I've been here, I've worked for a government agency, a law firm, and I'm currently externing with the Bankruptcy Court of Vermont. And so there's definitely a lot of opportunity in thinking about summer opportunities, finding ways to work during the school year, either through an externship or through an internship, and thinking about making this truly your own. And I will also say I am a big fan of living rural. And so that's, I think, definitely something to highlight that we live in South Royalton, which is very rural and in this like very beautiful town in Vermont, or it's this, very beautiful town in Vermont, like the rolling Green Mountains, which I think can be a really incredible experience if you lean into that fact. But I think it needs to be emphasized over and over again is the fact that we do live very rural, which is fun if you embrace either doing a lot of outdoor activities. I love hiking and biking and swimming, or there's like rock climbing and all these things around here, or you really commit to the community aspect of things. And there are so many fun events where there's live music and potlucks and dinners, and a lot of different activities that way. There's this deep commitment to craft and community in Vermont that's really beautiful to engage with if you let it be that way. So it's definitely a really fantastic place to go to school. It's very student-led, and there's a lot of opportunity to be a part of student groups. I think we're all four students here have had a leadership position in either energy law, animal law. I'm in food and ag law, and then I'm also currently the president of the National Food Law Student Network. And similar to what has been said already, I talk with students all around the country who are interested in food and agriculture law, and there's really not that much opportunity at other schools. Students in other places are trying to make their own degrees centered around this area of law, and it becomes a lot more difficult then because you have to be a lot more creative and kind of try to find your own path when you already don't have much time or energy to be creative and build your own programs out. So So yeah, so if it's something that you're interested in thinking about any of these fields, you definitely don't need to be decided coming in. There's a lot of opportunity once you get here to play around with different coursework. I know I've taken classes in kind of all of these different areas now, and it's a nice way to really just get a comprehensive field of the very holistic system of law and feel ready to go out into the world and do what you might want to with it. So hopefully that wasn't too rambly, and I'll kick it back to our leaders of this event.
Thank you, Fallon, and thanks to all the students for sharing their stories and interests. Before we open up for questions, I just wanted to hit on a couple other things, and we'll also chime in with a couple. First, we have a lot of folks on the call that are interested in the online hybrid JD, and I think that the message that I want to have for you all, even though you may not find yourself living in beautiful South Royalton, you will have this whole community at your disposal, and I think it's really important that we think about how the student groups that you've heard about, the rich variety of online offerings that we have in the environmental space. It's all part of the same group. We are I think a unified program in lots of ways. And if you're interested in being part of a student group, there are opportunities to participate in those residential student groups as an online student. We have some very active, wonderful online students who are increasingly participating, even in things that are on campus, but doing so virtually. And I'll say as well that we're really thrilled and excited about inviting all of the wonderful online hybrid students who are joining our community from around the country. And it's a really amazing opportunity to meet students from different walks of life and different backgrounds who would otherwise not have the opportunity to do a JD degree. And they add to the richness of our community immeasurably, including our environmental programs, as we get even more representation from other parts of the country and the environmental challenges that they're facing, bringing those into the classroom, talking, bringing those perspectives and bringing those different issues to bear. You can be online hybrid. You can also, through our programs, do some pretty incredible field studies. And the one that that a lot of people talk about and is really outstanding is our COP class, where we send people to the Conference of the Parties every year with literally one of the leading environmental advocates in the country in Derek Walker, who's basically a senior leader at the Environmental Defense Fund. And he brings students to Conference on the Parties. We work with parties, especially island nations recently. And what an incredible opportunity during your years as a law student to head over to these conferences and get international environmental law, get experience in that right off the bat. It's incredible. Making an impact on climate change making an impact on climate justice. And so finally, we have an incredible summer program here, which is kind of laced in with our joint degree programs. I just want to mention that it is an incredible opportunity to be here in the summer, and we're increasingly looking at opportunities for making that program more flexible so that online hybrid students can come to campus for a short period of time over the summer to take advantage of some of these residential classes. We bring some of the most accomplished faculty and practitioners from around the world to South Royalton, Vermont, to take advantage of intensive courses in beautiful summer Vermont. I mean, it's really unmatched in legal education, as far as I know. It is an incredible experience for students. It's an incredible experience for faculty to be partnering with students. I just want to highlight that that's a huge, incredible opportunity that residential students obviously have, but also online hybrid students are increasingly going to have options to come for a long weekend or for a week-long summer class, and they extended their 3-week summer classes as well. So really exciting opportunities to pair that with the more traditional residencies that every online hybrid student has to do. And I'm going to pass it to Anne to mention just a couple other things before we throw it open for questions.
All right, so I talked a little bit about our joint degrees. I'm getting a JD and a master's both from VLGS, but we also have some dual degrees that JD students can pursue, which is getting a JD from VLGS and then a master's degree from another school. So one of those that we have is with the School of the Environment at Yale University. Students can get a JD from Vermont and a Master of Environmental Management from Yale. That's a 4-year program. It's a really exciting interdisciplinary environmental program. You choose a focus area, but you can take classes across the entire university as part of that degree program. So you could even take, you know, a Chinese class or an art history class or something that somehow wraps into your plans at that school. So that's an exciting opportunity for students. We also have a dual degree with the University of Cambridge in England. It's an MPhil degree in environmental policy. That dual degree would take about 3.5 years to finish. It's a really international student body there, so it's not just, you know, a bunch of British students and a couple of Americans, but the students in that degree program are really from all over the world, so it makes for a really, you know, interesting and exciting experience. So those are 2 of our dual degree programs that focus on the environmental side of things. And another quick thing I wanted to mention is we've talked a lot about opportunities to specialize and really dig into different areas. And one more way that you can do that is through the opportunity to do an independent research project. And that's a paper on a topic of your choice. You're working one-on-one with a faculty member as your supervisor. So it's a great opportunity to work closely with a faculty member, to really delve into a topic, a very specific topic that you're interested in, get a lot of individual feedback on your writing, and the goal being to have a really polished professional writing sample that you can show an employer. So I'm a big fan of fitting in independent research projects at some point as part of a student's program. So I wanted to put in a pitch for that. And I think now's the time to turn it over to questions from our audience. Is that right?
Perfect. And please ask your questions in the chat. We've got one coming in and a couple coming in, and you can certainly also feel free to raise your hand in Zoom, and we'll answer your question live. But I guess we can start with the first question, and we'll see if students have good answers for these before Ann and I opine. Regarding food ag law and animal law, are these fields just as limited after law school as they are in school opportunities, specifically in job opportunities? So I wonder if the students focusing in those areas could just speak to the range of job opportunities that are out there.
Yeah, I'm happy to start. I think both. I mean, they're both so broad. I think it's just a matter of how you decide to pitch it. And I think I'm probably like the biggest lesson we all learn in life is mostly about it's all about the pitch, right? So it's about effectively telling your own story and how that relates to anything. And so I think you can effectively connect animal law and food and ag law to so many different career opportunities in so many different fields. And I have friends working in so many different areas of the country, the world, and I guess different areas of law right now, and both like government agencies, in nonprofits, in law firms. I don't think it limits you at all. I think it only allows you to tell a broader story of like what you're able to accomplish and what you're able to do with that. And all of these things span so many different areas of law. And so when we're saying agricultural law, that touches on land use, that touches on taxes, that touches on business law, tax law. You're encompassing just like broad areas through a specific lens. And so I think it's just a matter of learning how to talk about that effectively in interviewing and thinking about what you might want to do after law school. But I definitely don't think it limits you. I think it only allows more opportunities to be open to you.
Can I jump onto that as well?
Sure.
So I agree with what Fallon stated, and the fact that these are such specialized areas, once you're making connections and networking within the field, you'll realize how small of a community it actually is. So you'll get to know all of the organizations that require a background in food and ag or animal law. And once you recognize who those organizations are, it's just important to build networks with and within those organizations. And you'll find that through them, you might make even more connections and learn of other organizations that you may not have considered or thought of. So I agree, you are not limited. You just have to put the effort in to find out what you want to do, where you might want to work, and then start making those networking connections.
And really quick, I just want to add, I put a link in the chat because the Animal Law and Policy Institute, Professor Laura Ireland is really good about updating like an entire career section. So I just put that link in if you guys want to save that. If they're routinely updated. So you can even see just, there's jobs that are on there that just are updated regularly. So like the current job openings were as of December 2022, and you can just see the different types of companies and job descriptions pertinent to animal law, and even of course with the like a wildlife or environmental law intersection as well.
Thank you, Rena, for sharing that resource. It has been astounding to me as someone who entered the workforce 20 years ago, just the diversity and incredible range of opportunities that early career lawyers have now in all of these fields. And there's a lot, there's a lot of interest in, nonprofit funders as well as government agencies, and having real, as Emily sort of referenced, like people who are ready to go as new lawyers in these areas. It's true across the board. And if you've got that coursework and you've had those internships and externships and clinic experiences, you're going to be really competitive. We have a couple questions more in the chat. I do want to address Anne has been helping answering some of those questions. In the chat, one on environmental justice and how important it is across our curriculum. It really is. We actually added to the JD curriculum a new class on embedded racism in the law in the first year. And I think that a number of professors who are teaching that are also integrating concepts of environmental justice into that offering. That's very cutting edge and exciting offering that we have that's required. The other question about pollution and oil spills and sort of the more conventional environmental questions, we cover that too, and we have wonderful courses in that area. You might, if you residentially, you might have the opportunity to come and work in my clinic or the environmental justice clinic, where we focus heavily on the issues of pollution and EPA regulation of pollution, state regulation of pollution, and some of our clients are heavily affected by pollution issues, and so we address them under federal and state environmental laws. And of course, climate pollution being one of the major issues of our time, we have a very robust program focused on climate change and all the various manifestations of that, both mitigation and adaptation. So let's see. Let's go down. Let me scroll down a little bit as the questions have rolled in. If you're admitted for the JD hybrid, but decide maybe before or after Winnell that you would like to be in residence, I think I'll pass that over to Shirley.
I'll take it. Yeah, so unfortunately, it's very difficult to switch back and forth, and that's why we're not allowing it right now from the hybrid program versus the residential program. You're just on such a different order that you're taking your classes. It's really hard to switch you around. But if you wanted to, you could come and participate in one of those exciting law clinics that you heard about as a hybrid student. You just have to be available to come during that semester. And Anne could probably tell you about if you would like to come for a shorter time, there's opportunities to take a class over the summer on campus that for very short time periods. And you want to talk to that?
Yes, you caught me typing a reply to a different question. Yes, online students can definitely come in the summer and take one of our short residential classes. I think we've had certainly more and more students each year who have taken advantage of that. As an online hybrid student, the hybrid part is that you actually do come to Vermont a few times over the course of your experience in the program. And one of those includes a summer class. When you come for your summer residency, you participate in one of the intensive summer classes. We've got, I hope Christoph can jump in and help me with what's the new one that we have that's climate focused, the weekend intensive for our online hybrid students this summer. I'm blanking on the exact name of the class, but anyway, there are some different cool, exciting courses. We've done one on offshore wind energy, different ones that every online student has the opportunity to do, and then you also can, if you want to, and if your life schedule works with that, you can come and take some of the week-long or 2-week-long summer classes as well.
There was definitely a question in the chat that was about sort of what percentage of people are successful in the nonprofit and government job market. And I wonder whether the admissions folks have any statistics on that. But I will say anecdotally from my experience, this is your best ticket, to be honest. If you look across legal education of getting those types of positions, we have very good early career results. I mean, students in my clinic are working now at the Southern Environmental Law Center, at EPA, for judicial clerkships across the country, from Alaska to Maine. And so, I think we've been very successful in job placement in our specialty areas, and I think that's true with the niches that you've heard today. We also, there was a question about legal academia, and I think our students have also had success applying for many of these brand new sort of law teaching fellowships that are out there to entry into academia, especially those that are focused on clinical teaching. Because we're really practical here, and we set people off on a course to have a really good application to one of those programs. So I do think that that's a really, if there are any statistics from the admissions team that might be helpful on that question, I'd welcome them chiming in.
Yeah, Christoph, I was just pulling up some class of 2023 data that I have. Approximately 34% of our students are doing judicial clerkships after they graduate. About 20% of the students are working in the environmental or energy related field. And some of the highlights, U.S. Department of Energy, Clean Energy Innovator Fellow, Environmental Regulatory Council, American Clean Power Association. The list goes on and on.
Okay. This is an interesting question about, what can you do with a Vermont Law and Graduate School degree besides being a lawyer? And there are many opportunities out there for JD students, and especially as we talk about environmental policy. There are many opportunities, even if don't have the attorney in their name. We do want and encourage everyone who is in the JD program to apply for a bar admission after they graduate. I think it's a really important step to take, and we prepare you well for it. But our students are in many different arenas, from business to in business roles to non-lawyer government roles, to the philanthropic community. We have a lot reach across different fields, including non-law fields. So I think we're at 1:57. So I think that we may have time for one more question. Is that fair?
Yeah, and I actually there's one question that was asked by a student, and I think he's with his 2-year-old, so he wanted me to ask it for him. So he asked the panel how the recent decision by the Supreme Court to allow the state of Hawaii to pursue the lawsuit against the oil companies may influence future lawsuits, and if we'll see more like them in the future. That'd be kind of a fun question.
Any students want to raise their hand and talk about that? Who would follow me in? If not, I can weigh in because I follow that pseudo religiously. And I will just say that the exciting thing about that question is that environmental litigation, climate litigation, it's a specialty of a number of faculty members here, including myself. And that decision is a sign that this area of law and this area of work is going to continue, and it'd be a very interesting angle on addressing climate change from the court's perspective, alongside all the other levers and policies that are now very contested and very, very interesting. It's a very interesting time, dynamic time to start on a career in this area. Because it's really the topic of our time, and it's also going to change on a weekly basis. You will see an event every week that we can comment on and talk about in our classes. This being one of them. The state climate lawsuits moving forward. So I think that hopefully that helps. And I think we are now at just about time, so I'll hand it back over to Shirley.
And I just want to touch on one little question that I saw that's a little bit admissions related. Kayla, you asked about the mission scholarship that Vermont Law School offers. It is a scholarship that's available. We have 2 main mission areas at Vermont Law School: social justice and environmental justice. And to qualify for that scholarship, you need to write an essay about what it is that you want to do in your particular mission area. You can potentially get a $3,000 stipend for at some point in the program when you're going off to do an externship. It's a great one to consider. It does have a deadline. I'm trying to think if it's March 15th or April 15th. It is on our website under scholarships, so be sure to check that date. You have to have submitted your application as well as your mission scholarship essay. And that mission scholarship essay you may upload with your application if you like, or send it in directly to our general admissions email address, which is like the beginning of the word admission, ADMISSION. Oh, no, let me start over. ADMISS@vermontslaw.edu. So in closing, I just want to thank you all for joining us today. And I want to mention that we have a few more upcoming sessions. One is going to be on January 28th at 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. It's going to be about social justice. We're known at Vermont Law School for our environmental justice as well as our social justice programs. So you may find that of interest. And then on February 12th at 1 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, we're doing an info session on financial aid. So it'll tell you everything about filling out your FAFSA form and how to select which aid that you'd like to accept. And if anybody here would like an application fee waiver, pop your email address in the chat, and I will get that out to you. And also, I'm going to pop in the chat the links for those upcoming events, and you're welcome to join all of those as well. Thank you again for joining us, and thank you, panelists, for being here today.